there, and welcome back once again to another edition of Silly Car Showdown. Today, now we are taking a look at the Ford Transit Supervan 3. This has just come into the game in the newest update, and what a car it is. It's a very hotly anticipated one, this one perhaps the biggest car in this particular update. The Transit Supervan is essentially, for those of you who don't know, a transit body shell on a Group C race car, essentially. The Supervan 1 was on a GT40 chassis. I can't quite remember the chassis of the Supervan 2, but I believe I used an F1 engine, and the Supervan 3 was based on a Group C car. This particular one has a V6 Cosworth engine in it currently, because this is from when they would go on to rebuild it, but it's still maintained a lot of the Supervan 3 craziness, including that wing, the fact the wing mirrors are literally screwed onto Perspex. It's just an all-round crazy vehicle, and of course it's wrapped up in a transit body shell, which makes it even better. Anyways, as far as this car goes, we are going to go ahead and upgrade it, make it even crazier than it already is, which, yes, it is possible. And we're going to do that by way of engine swap. The stock Cosworth V6 is nice and all that, but there are better engine choices available. So we have the choice of a 7-litre V8 from a Ford GT40, a Racing's V12 from a Ferrari F50 GT, the Trophy Truck Racing 7.2 V8, and the V6 twin-turbo from a modern-day Ford GT LM car. That's the one we're going to go with. It is, well, $250,000 to swap into it, but nevertheless we will do that. No drivetrain swaps allowed as per the rules of this series, and also there is no aero for this car. I think it's already on it, but we do allow cars to have their stock aero parts, even if they are adjustable. Anyways, we are going to go ahead and put tyres on it. This is one of those weird cars that for some reason the Horizon racing tyres are a different compound to actual racing tyres. And let's go ahead and see what we can do with tyres. They start off as 240s, 305s on the front, they're nice and meaty, and 365s on the rear. Okay, they're very meaty indeed. This should be quite good. We will put the wheels all the way out because, well, they're already quite ingressed as it is. This thing should have pretty darn phenomenal grip looking at that handling stat. Racing gearbox, because apparently that's not in it by default. I assume that just gives us the 6-speed. This might be a 5 standard. We don't want to mess with any of those springs because this thing should already be on racing suspension. Stick in all the anti-roll bars, no weight reduction, no roll cage here, and the engine is pretty simple to upgrade from here. So let's go ahead and put that in. 50 horsepower, 94 horsepower, which brings us into X-Class, and then finally 292 horsepower through the use of twin turbos. So, yeah, 3.3 seconds to 60, top speed 234 miles an hour, 1,460 horsepower, 1,065 foot-pound torque, 2,063 pounds of weight. Yeah, those are awfully impressive stats. In fact, those stats are even possibly a little bit better than the Elise GT1 that currently rules our leaderboards. I don't want to get your hopes up that a Ford Transit might beat an Elise GT1, but there is ever the chance. Let's take it to our test track to see what it does. Okay, so here we are at our Edinburgh course, ready to give the Transit Supervan 3 5 laps to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Lotus Elise GT1 with a time of 131.226. The Supervan, as much as it would be a fairy tale story, probably unlikely to beat that. Other X-Class cars we've had have gone, I mean, Ferrari FXXK, 134, Ferrari Lamborghini Huracan, 35.7, CX-75, 136.697, Ford Double Doom was 137, so somewhere in that sort of spot would be nice. That being said, having driven this thing a little bit while I was waiting for the event to load, it bollocks basically of the servers today apparently. This is a very strange vehicle to drive. It's one of those where it's incredibly quick. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the speed out of it. It's tricky. It really is a very tricky vehicle to drive. It's one of those cars which is just very unforgiving and very random as to what it's actually going to do. Sometimes it will go through a corner absolutely fine at warp speed, other times it will understeer it like, you know, for no reason. I appreciate at low speeds, you know, this is a downforce dependent vehicle, It has got the wing and the big splitter for a reason, because it needs all the downforce it can get, and that helps it get around the corners. I can accept that. But, you know, I mean, it just sort of wants to bite your head off occasionally. I'm not quite sure why. So, a little bit of a strange vehicle to drive. We're going to ignore that first lap, of course, because that is the starting lap, which we don't usually count. That lamppost has killed quite a lot of our momentum, apparently. That's the other issue with this as well. Unlike something like the Elise or the Huracan, you know, this is not a car which can survive, you know, little bumps and scrapes here and there. This is a car that really gets slowed down, or should really get slowed down by environmental pieces. That fence, for example, is not good. The bike rack on that on the left side of the road, that has claimed several cars in the past, and I have a feeling that if the Transit makes contact with that, that will probably be game over for the lap. So I've got to try and get a super clean, super quick lap out of the Transit, and there's a lot of stuff working against this vehicle. There's a lot of stuff working for it, though. It is quite nice to drive in general. The power delivery, it's 1400 horsepower to a, you know, just over 2,000 pounds shell. It should be atrocious, but actual power delivery, getting it down thanks to mainly those big tyres, actually isn't too awful. It's actually quite nice to get the power down in this. It will bite you in the arse occasionally in the first 3 gears, but once you're in 4th gear, you can pretty much floor it with no issues. A 134.929. So we are on pace. I really reckon I could probably snatch the FXXK with this if I get a real good lap out of it. And I mean a real good lap out of it. But again, as I said, a lot of that's dependent on the van. You know, sometimes I'll come around that corner at like 120 and it'll be absolutely fine. Other times I'll, you know, struggle at 80. It's old school race car in the sense that a lot of it is dependent on downforce, and you've got to be on it to get the downforce out of it, which makes it terrifying and also more random to drive, which again, as we spoke about a minute ago, randomness not quite what I want in a car. When it comes to being quick on this series, again, you can see the track, you can see the adverse conditions, if you will, which might prevent a vehicle getting around here with good speed. So yeah, ooh, there we go. That was quite nice. This lap in general has been relatively okay. I don't think it's been super fast, but it's not been bad. Oop. 134.6. A little bit quicker. That lamppost, I can't tell if it's helping or not, because it is actually sort of making it a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? It is slowing it down a bit. This lap's a throwaway. I can already tell from like that first few corners. Otherwise, I'm really quick through these next rest of the lap, which, judging by the fact we're sideways on there and we've hit the bike, yeah. No, this is a throwaway lap. See what I mean? It really is a case of it's just trying to get consistency out of this thing, which is not easy. Really not very easy at all. Which, again, expected. Perhaps it's a bit of a shame to some of you, but, you know, that Lotus Elise GT1 really is a very, very quick car, and there's a lot of factors that go into the Elise being as quick as it is. You know, firstly, it's an OP car, which helps. But it's just, you know, easy to drive. Sure, there was understeer and stuff like that. Not on this level, though. I can't remember if power delivery was actually worse. This is probably quicker than the Elise in a straight line. You know, coming down that back straight, usually we time the quickest cars at 160, 170. This is going like 190, so it's very quick down there, so... Anyways, this is going to shape up to be the final lap with the Supervan, so let's see how quick we can get on this. Didn't hit the lamppost. Just got to try and tame it into this corner here. Third gear might have been a bit too soggy for this. A little bit of wheel spin on the way out. No. Come on, work with me, Supervan. Do you not want to be quick? I mean, it sounds good at least. Yeah, no, that's probably spelt the end of this one. And I'll take that 1:34.6. That was a quick time. If it behaved, it could have probably beat the FXX, but as it stands, it behaves like sometimes. Probably behave for the rest of, yeah, you see through there. That's insanely quick compared to the last few times we've taken it through there, but, you know, it won't do that consistently. Yeah, no, we are well down on time on this one. I am so sorry, Supervan fans, but yeah, no. It tried very hard. I tried very hard for it, but it's just not consistent at all, which is a big issue, big shame, but there you go. A 1:34.6 though certainly is nothing for the Supervan to be ashamed about. In fact, that is an incredibly quick time. But it's just not controllable enough. Again, people are gonna scream at me for not driving it correctly or whatever, but I mean, you try and drive it. It's brutal. It really is. This thing with the stock V6 though, I do have to say, I was driving it around a little bit earlier. Really nice car to drive. You know, as far as grip cars go, this might be the go-to, but sticking 1400 horsepower through it, you know, kind of ruins that a little bit. So, yeah, perhaps don't do that. Also, just for the sake of it. How much? 36.7 pounds of boost. Okay, so there we go. Anyways, a 1:34.6, again, hardly a bad time. It will put it into third place. It goes in between the Ferrari FXXK, which is, again, a modern, you know, track toy hero. It is a second up on the Ferrari Huracan V12 GT, which led this leaderboard for quite a while. 2 seconds up on the Jaguar CX-75. I mean, you know, technically this car's closer to the Double Doom in age than the CX-75, maybe? So, actually, how old is this? This is the... oh, it's 94. Never mind. I was going to say, if this was like the Supervan 2, then that might be true, but... yeah, no. It really hasn't done bad. I mean, you can see the cars it's around. It really hasn't done bad, but... it's just that consistency. It just does not have it. And the Elise GT1 had it. The FXXK had it. In fairness, the Huracan and the CX-75 had it too, so... yeah. It's... bit of a shame, but I guess it drives pretty much as you'd expect, and it is still a very good vehicle, and of course I do recommend you go ahead and get it because it's a Ford Transit Supervan. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching this edition of Silly Car Showdown. Join us next time when I'm thinking on sort of the send-off episode for this series for now. We need to go ahead and get something to really challenge that Elise GT1, so stay tuned for next time when we're going to find out what does that. But thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.
You know the sorrow that my heart holds in knowing just where my hopes and dreams are going.